I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Indaba Conversation with Chris. My guest today is none other than someone I made acquaintance with a few years ago, and been an interesting character. People love him, people hate him, and that's fine. I'm sure people love and hate me too. But my guest tonight is leader of the United Independent Movement and now frequent commenter on the media scene, none other than Neil de Beer. Neil, hoe gaan dit?
Baie goed. Thank you, Chris. Right. Still admire your Afrikaans. And
it's not much.
Other people believe we bloody love you in this country.
Well, thank you. I got a few detractors there, but they're mostly extreme leftist, self-pleasuring hate wankers.
Yeah, the wokes. The wokes.
Exactly. They really hate it. Well, their big counting coup, they've counted Ramon Cabenac and Ronald Jose, and maybe we'll talk about that later, but that's not the focus now. Hey, we're going to talk today about the government of national unity, and let me, it's a conversation, not strictly an interview, so let me just start out with my comments here and then turn it over to you. When this was announced, I immediately denounced it and said it's not a government national unity. It's a grand coalition. Let's be honest. That's what it is. And coalitions come with compromises. People need to understand that. Stop calling it a government national unity. It is a coalition. And coalition partners have different objectives that don't always overlap, and there are going to be challenges. And I warn people that when BELA and NHI come into play, which they will, the DA will cave. I mean, they may go take and participate in a court case with a civil group outside, but they're not going to break up the government. They're desperate to be in power to prove they can do something. I'm not going to attribute to self-aggrandizement, self-enrichment, and naked political power. Maybe that plays. I'm not going to claim that about the DA, but they have not been in power at the national level ever. They're there. It would take a huge issue for them to leave this government. And one of those issues, of course, would be Ramaphosa the other day saying, well, anybody can join, like the EFF. That was a deal breaker, no EFF or MK. Anyway, what are your thoughts on my comments there and then your opening statement?
As always, spot on. I think, Chris, my 30 years being in out of government service, mostly within the intelligence and security fraternity, then in business for quite a period of time, and now being a in-depth politician serving at local government level for the past 3 years, it is an eye-opener. Now, you will remember I was one of the first parties to join the multi-party charter, where I served next to the majority of the people that are now in the GNU. So John Steenhuisen, Peter Groenewald, Honorable Slapisa, I served with them. For a year and a half, we worked side by side to create the alternative. But every single month, going closer to the 29th of March, people were saying, but Neil, you are in the multi-party charter, but the DA is talking to the ANC. And I said, no, can't be. I mean, we're fighting them. I mean, every one of us that were part of the multi-party charter had to sign the charter. And unequivocally, the most fundamental point why I joined as the UIM was to remove the African National Congress. This was clear. It said in our signed charter that this multi-party charter will endeavor and will never form a government with the African National Congress. Yet every single month that we went closer, people were saying, Neil, they're talking to the ANC. Now, if you're a butcher and you own a butchery, and after 20 years you sell your butchery, you don't bloody stop eating meat, Chris. When you've been in intelligence for 32 years, when you leave the intelligence service, you never leave. And this is what people must start to understand. We are maybe retired in rank, but we're not retired in network. So I'm always trying to tell to people when they start talking to me and asking me, then I say to them, I wasn't a bank teller. So I am deeply connected from all sides. And I was being told, I'm wrong, that there is going to be two options for many parties after that election. One, they're going to either make it as the MPC, or they are going to form a government of national unity. Now, there is no way, Chris, and I'm not an idiot, I might have been born at night, but not bloody last night. So there is no way, in my point of view, that when the election was done and it was called, that with such speed, with such momentum, that they had a contract, that they had a coalition, that they had the GNU in place within that time frame. I'm telling you. So it was obvious to me some sideline discussions had to happen. Now, Chris, you come from there. I come from there. There's always what they call the side channel. You've had it in Iraq, you've had it in Afghanistan, you've had it in Russia. There has always in every global institution been sidebar. I mean, if you don't, sorry, you're stupid. So you always had the official government point of view, and then you had people like us, Chris, having to go do the dog work, having to go under deniability to actually keep the second door open. But this is, if you come from where we come from, this is obvious. So the GNU was formed. It is not a government of national. This is a grand coalition. And Helen Zille, to the point, admitted it. So let's cut the BS and let's get to it. This is an inconvenient marriage. This is a blistering cooking pot. And I said, like you said, when we hit the policy indifference, that's when we're going to see the power of this GNU. And as true as my words and your words went from cloud to thunder, the BELA bill came. Now, the DA, one of the parties, were vehemently against the BELA bill. And in the words verbatim of Helen Zille, there's the video, there's the YouTube, she says during the election that the BELA bill is a red line in the sand. It is not negotiable. This is verbatim. This is not Neil de Beer. This is recorded. So John Steenhuisen, who I know, and you know, I will say it. I have a great affinity to him as a friend. I mean, you do build up friendship. But John then went and said, the day before the president signs, that if he signs it, we have to look at our options. What was the options? Court, leaving, not one of those, Chris, actually you and I, and surely people with a certain level of IQ, thought that they would do it. So he signs it, but then he adds a caveat and says, I've signed it, but clause 4 and 5, I'm still open to debate. Chris, you went hunting, you shot the deer, you killed the deer's lying, and now you tell the person, I think we should debate hunting or not.
Yeah, it's a bit late. The cart is before the horse. Okay, 4 points on that one, Neil, from your opening comments here. Number one, you may be born at night, but I, in interest of full disclosure, was born at 6:35 in the morning on a Christmas day, so I was a morning baby. Sean Folshank did a super chat here early on. He lives in Gordons Bay. You know he is because you represent him. You've met him. He said, I unfortunately cannot watch the interview. I'll watch later. I wish I could ask questions. P.S. Neil, you still owe Sean a coffee next time you're in Gordons Bay, so thank you for that.
Damn right.
By the way, he didn't send me enough rand to cover the coffee, so I'm just, no, he did. Okay, so there's that. Okay, now I'm going to crow and tip my own hat here as an analyst. I was the only analyst and the earliest analyst that called the ANC getting between 38 and 42% of the vote. I did so after the municipal elections in 2021, looking at the tea leaves and knowing what was coming before we ever heard of an MK party. So I'm going to crow about that. Then as the election came and I said, if the ANC doesn't get below 40%, they're going to go in a coalition. People like to go with EFF and MK. I said, you don't understand. Ramaphosa detests Julius Malema, and the ANC will never go into a coalition after Zuma has betrayed the party. That's not going to happen with MK. So I said a grand coalition, and you're likely to see the DA go into it. That's as the election approached, because there was no other option here. And no MK, no EFF. And I also said, the other thing I said about all this is that in this coalition, the ANC will not cede real power. What I mean by real power, you understand this, Neil, is the security cluster. They did not give up justice. They did not give up police, the military, intelligence. All of that remains under ANC control. All the levers of state power and coercion remain under ANC control. They gave them agriculture, which is broken and needs to be fixed, but they took away land reform. That was a big deal. Gave it to a black supremacy, black land first party, but the agriculture needs to be fixed. Home affairs is a disaster. That's being fixed by the DA. And then also communications. I don't know if that's going to be fixed. And surprisingly, they gave them, Angie 30% Mosheka's education ministry. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. But basically, the DA, which got 30% of the Grand Coalition's vote total, only has 19% of the minister positions. I think they're in a weak position, and they're not going to leave this coalition unless they're forced to. Any responses, Neil? Did I get anything wrong?
No, you don't surrender the power. You can give away agriculture, education, health, marine life, fisheries, sport. But you and I know that you never give away defense, you never give away police, you never give away intelligence, and you never give away finance. Those are the things that no matter what you do, you fight for it. And what I saw was when the lists came out, this is an ANC government. I mean, the minister, who was the DA minister of education, did not go to the side. She was chastised about it. And the next day, Cyril Ramaphosa says in a TV interview, if that minister does not implement our policy, he says, I will fire her. Yeah. So who's fighting who?
Right.
Who's propagandaing who? Chris?
But to be fair, in that situation, this is my take on that. I have no problem with her because they're in a coalition. It's not like she's a member of his party in a ministerial position. So in a coalition, she didn't attend the ceremony. I don't lose any sleep over that. Ronnie Lamola is in America telling people that they're in a coalition with the oppressor, calling the DA white and calling white people oppressors. I mean, that's racist. I mean, he's telling a foreign audience that, stoking racial hatred in America. That's ridiculous. That's a bigger issue than her not attending the ceremony. She publicly stated that she will implement the law as it's written. So, this is just it's a tempest in a teapot, I think, what's going on. Now, there's a question here from Andre Ruin. I was going to get this. Let me go ahead and preempt it now, Neil. He wants to know what your response to the DA's claim to have joined the GNU to counter the alternative, which is a doomsday coalition, which I said was doomsday coalition. But before you answer that, the thing with this is that...
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to do something crazy. You go on.
Okay.
I need to switch off something.
You need to
Don't
what?
worry. I need to quickly switch off something.
Oh, yeah. Go do that. All right. Well, I'll hold my question then.
I'm back.
All right. I'll hold my question, folks. Neil DeBeer is going to turn on his disco lights as we get ready to do our freak out here. Ladies and gentlemen, in the studio with Neil DeBeer is Sean P. Diddy Combs, just released from federal penitentiary. Actually, I like that. Neil swung the chair around so we don't have a blank.
It was my bloody kettle. I was going for a cup of tea.
Oh, okay. Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said while you're off camera? No, I said, listen, Neil is going to answer the door. We are here for our freak out. We got the baby oil. Sean P. Diddy Combs has been released from federal custody. He's at Neil's house. The party begins now. Anyway, but seriously, come on in, P. Diddy. No, but back to the point. So, all right, now this is devil's advocate, not my position, but Neil, Andre asked this question about, they say they wanted to counter the Doomsday Coalition. I think that's a fair statement by the DA. But I mean, can we fault the DA? I mean, we can fault them for being liars publicly. We can say that. But politically, because we know politics it's a strange bedfellows, can we fault them because a government needed to be formed? They want to influence some change for the better, and this is the best they could get. I'm being devil's advocate. Can we fault them? Or did they just conform to political realities on the ground after the election? Or should they be chastised for being frauds? Your thoughts?
I've said this 83 times already. So here I go again, 84. It's 6 months since the formation of the GNU. So I'll say it again. If you look at where the positioning was of the choices of a government where not one singular party in this country got majority, where not one in the ballot box were given authority to govern. So that's obvious. Secondly, if you look at the people that were sitting around the bonfire, there was a clear RET faction, a liberal, communistic, nationalistic, socialistic quagmire of the EFF and MK. That's them, that's clear. And on the other side, may I say, you had a mixture of Democrats, liberals, wokes, moderate, that was sitting on that side that had a capitalistic, democratic ideology. We can spin words, but let's call them that. And you had to form a government. Now, I'm telling you, again, I've sold my butchery, but I eat meat. I was told that it would be easier for the ANC to dominate the DA than to dominate MK. This is a fact.
Yeah.
So if you look at, forget about the DA making a decision, who is the right one to go with, and they spun that story, they served the OAS. Yes, I agree that that was the right choice for the government. So let's get off that.
Yep.
It's 6 months later.
Yep.
So I'm telling you though, Chris, here's my problem. You were given the support by the country's moderate to going to form a government, but there was a caveat. There were conditions. And those conditions are clear. That you would not roll over and get snide. That you would not back off on defending what we wanted you to defend. That you would not shut up when it comes to making a decision. And I'm telling you, they failed on the first bloody test. No, let's not mix words here.
Yeah.
They failed.
100%. I can't argue with you, Neil. And I've been highly critical of the DA recently.
Go
ahead.
It's an ANC government, man.
No, it is. I mean, we got members of the ANC like the electric slide minister's wife, Ramakopa, Gwen Ramakopa, running around and saying at Pravin Gordhan's funeral that people need to show respect to the president. I'm sorry, Munir Palapala doesn't get my respect. I mean, I don't care if I'm.
You earn it.
You earn it. That's right. You earn respect. Yeah, you can respect the office, but the person has to earn respect. Anyway, no,
in my times in the military. In my times in the military, I did not need to like you. But when you've got something here, you would acknowledge the rank.
Yep, agreed. But what the ANC is so accustomed to is their sycophantic cadres who do what they're told because, and you were in the ANC, if you don't toe the line and you're not loyal to the party, then you're not useful to the party and they're going to marginalize or get rid of you. And so when anyone doesn't do what they expect, they're going to call it out. But I guess they expect Ronnie the Mullet to spew racist hatred in America, so they're not going to call that out.
The ANC is not a democracy.
Oh, no. Latuli House is not even. Look, I no longer call it the National Executive Committee, and now call it the Politburo. I mean, I'm sorry. That's what it is.
No, they're communists. Yeah. They're communists.
Yep.
You know what? I served. My history is out there. Go Google.
Yep.
I sat in those meetings. I was part of it. I was in the Latuli House when we were really focused on liberty. We were in the Mandela era, I will argue, into the era of Mbeki, different kind of style, but still trying to build a nation, trying to unite. And at some point, Chris, the liberator became the oppressor. And it happened when they started to feed at the trough, when Chris Hani said, he said it, when Chris Hani said, that the day the leadership of this party start to fight about the ownership of a Mercedes-Benz, those days, the leadership are no longer for the people. Owar Tambo said that the only people that can destroy the ANC is the ANC themselves. And finally, Nelson Mandela said, if the ANC does to you, which the apartheid government did to you, then do to them what you did to the apartheid government. All three came true. I left 4 years ago, as you know, dramatically, because I will not form part of an oppressive government. I fought 3 years to get them out. I'm sitting back and I'm saying, am I missing something? Am I missing something? Fikile Mbalula says, this is the SG. Remember, the Secretary General has the right to pull back a president. So Mr. Fikile, I fear, he gets up and he says that if the GNU partners do not want to support ANC policy, Chris, he said this Friday, if the GNU does not want to support ANC policy, hear me, he says he has many other alternatives that would.
Yeah, no, it's and you see it all the time, constantly with the BELA, which we're going to get into here shortly. You know, the attack on ministers. Look, I'm not necessarily a fan or an opponent of Siviwe Garuba. I've seen her. I didn't really meet her. You know, I was at the funeral when James James Self passed away a few months ago. I was at that. I didn't intend to. It was at the Botanical Gardens. I was there visiting, filming, and I walked out, and there's Jordan Hill Lewis and a bunch of DA people and Steve. I went, "What's going on?" I didn't realize it was James Self's funeral. But it's you know, when they're like, if she doesn't implement this stuff, you know, and this nonsense coming from these communistic fake civil organizations like Save South Africa and these other ones, that they're really just communist organs, you know, mouthpieces for the ANC, coming from the outside, making it look like there's support for this. Well, who is she, a DA minister or a member representing South Africans? Well, from my perspective, she's representing South Africans in her opposition to the bill. She has an obligation to follow the law, which she said she'll do, but she can be opposed to it, not like it. As long as she does the job, it doesn't matter. I took many orders, Neil, that I found unacceptable, but they were lawful and they were moral. So I had an obligation to carry them out, whether I liked them or not. My opinion doesn't matter. Most of the things that Barack Obama did in Africa pissed me off. I wasn't in concert with him, but I did my job to 110% or better each time because it was lawful. I mean, it's, you know, if someone else is president and they have the policy I agree with, then I'd be happy about it, but it doesn't matter. But she'll implement it. But here's the thing about this is that, in my view, she is representing South Africans. There are severe concerns and reservations about this amendment to the education bill, particularly about homeschooling, about language, about the governing bodies being overridden by the national authority. And we'll get into that shortly. All of that, and we're talking about educators and parents and civic organizations. You do actual polling and talk to South Africans who understand the bill, and overwhelmingly people oppose it. So she is not opposing South Africans, in my view. She is trying to address the issues for South Africans, which the ANC is forcing down people's throats. And one more thing before you get back in here. Isn't it ironic? And this is where I always make this point, and I've been making for years. There is, in my view, little distinction between the post-1994 ANC and the National Party in many respects. Both love state-owned institutions like ESCOM and Janelle and things like that. They love state control and they love patronage. The difference was the National Party's favorite group was by and large Afrikaners, but the difference is their patrons were competent. There's a big difference. The people they put in places were competent, but they're very similar. And it's the same situation here. The ANC expects loyalty, and it's anyway. But the big issue here with the education bill is that, isn't it ironic that it all began to unravel, not after Sharpeville, it all began to unravel after Soweto in 1976, when the students protested the imposition of Afrikaans as a medium of language. And again, it came in 85 when the country nearly turned over. But the imposition of a colonial language, although I think Afrikaans is an African language, but let's call it that. A colonial language imposed upon the black majority is what sparked riots and ultimately helped lead to the end of apartheid, amongst many other things. And isn't it ironic that the ANC is imposing a colonial language of English, not your first language? It is my first language. They're imposing a colonial language on all South Africans, 93% of whom don't speak it as a first language. They will not build schools 30 years later still that teach kids properly how to read and write in Venda, in Xhosa, in Zulu, in Tswana, in Nu, in Khoi and San. That's the irony here. They have destroyed education, and they are bringing back a system that was opposed violently by the very organization itself. I know that was a long soliloquy, a lot of points in there, Neil. You can attack or go after or agree with any of them. Your turn. That's a lot, huh?
I had a great mentor. His name was Graham Powell.
Yeah.
Prolific businessman, statesman, business leader. I had the privilege of being mentored by him in his last couple of years of life. And one thing he always used to ask me, because as you know, I was a massive revolution. I was an absolute terrorist. I was a fighter. I had no sense of common sense. I used to just go forward. But as you get older, you still have that sense of bravado. But wisdom comes along. And Graham Power always used to tell me when I used to get up and do rah-rah, yes, we're going to do this. He used to only ask me one thing. Neil, did you really think that through? Oh, that's a profound statement. The BELA bill, no matter what people are selling us and telling us, is an advantage to the Department of Education. They didn't think it through. They were so happy to run for power. They were so ready, like many other good intentions, that turned out bad. Black economic empowerment, good intention. Transformation, good intention. BELA bill, good intention. But the end result flopped because they didn't think it through. Now, 5 laws in the BELA bill. And you know, it's funny. Not one of the massive problems that I've got as a dad, I've got a child at school, and I'm a granddad now. I've got a child coming to school. So I'm an affected parent. One, when the government takes my control of education of my child away, I have a fundamental problem. 2, when you take away, no matter how we hash it, the governing control body of a school that exists predominantly out of parents, if you take their power away, if you decide whatever language and whatever tuition you're going to get at that school, I have no say. These are fundamental problems. But here's the fact, Chris, hear me out. Where they didn't think it through is while they're pushing, by the way, with this new man on the block, Mr. Lesofie, who is now going to fight to become president of this country. Watch me. I said it here first. He's going to go and he's preparing himself for the ANC conference. Either Paul Mashatile becomes president and survives the massive accusations against him, which, by the way, was delivered by John Steenhuisen on the level floor of the Union building. All the dockets. He provided the evidence to say that the deputy president of this country is corrupt and a criminal. Nothing heard of it. Nothing. It's gone. So Paul Mashatile is fighting and wants to hang on because obviously he will be the next in line for president. But Lesofie has now tasted power. And he was, Chris, a scribe of the BELA bill. So when he said, you can't do that, we'll take away the power, that was not the problem. Here's the problem, Chris. Where is he going to find the schools, the teachers, and the classes to invoke the new law of level R tuition and that your school and that your children must be at school? At the same time, while they are telling us that they're going to enforce this educational bill, Gauteng and Western Cape, both of them made announcements they're going to cut teachers. Gauteng withdrew it when they saw the backlash and said, no, we're not going to cut the 3,000 teachers. We're just going to cut their transport and feeding scheme at school. But the Western Cape is still cutting the amount of teachers of 2,400. They didn't think this through, Chris. Not at all. And we are going to get the ramification. That's the BELA bill. And that's why I'm rejecting it. And if necessary, we will have to go to court.
100%, Neil. I mean, that's the real problem, isn't it? With governments, all too often, the second and third order effects aren't considered. You know, as military people, we talk about second and third order effects. You do something, it's kind of like a computer program. If this, then that statement. If this happens, then this happens. But they don't think through the second and third order effects, and it's driving me nuts. I haven't heard you speak about it, so maybe you've commented on it. But I've heard no commentators, and I've seen no news stories make the point that I'm making. The ANC should have delivered primary and secondary education to people in their first language, as is promulgated in the Constitution that came up under this government. That should have happened in the last 30 years. Let's give them a break and say they didn't get started until 97 when we have the new Constitution in effect. Still, that's nearly 30 years. Instead, they hand out patronage contracts to BEE contractors that are fictitious for textbooks in the Eastern Cape. We have over 4,300 pit latrine schools still in effect 3 decades after they take over, and they want to blame apartheid. There's no doubt that the National Party and spatial dispensation and past grievances and issues play a role in where things were in 1994. In 2024, they own this. They are responsible. The ANC, they ruled this country for 30 years, and they've run it in the ground with their kleptocracy. And good intentions or not, you know, all this is going on, and people should be prosecuted. But no one gets prosecuted for this stuff. No one disappears. The step-aside rule is barely applied unless it's someone they dislike, and then they try to enforce it. But it's unbelievable what has happened in South Africa. The ANC has absolutely destroyed this country, and they don't deserve to rule, but they're there. And you're right, Panyaza Lesufi is definitely positioning himself. And since he's in Gauteng, the financial and economic heart of South Africa, he is powerful just because of that presence. And look at how he's rebelling against the National Party. You know, normally in the ANC, if people don't do what they're told from Lutuli House, they're gone. But the party is weak, and you can see it play out in Gauteng. They don't have the strength and the structures to overrule people, and I think the upcoming conference is going to be very interesting. Fikile Mabalula thought he was positioning himself to be the next president. That ain't going to happen. Paul Mashatile is not going to survive. So of those three, I think you're right. Panyaza Lesufi is really making a move. Kind of like Cyril did by buying off people and paying for votes back in 2017, December 2017. But anyway, that's my take on it. I agree with you 100% about the Panyaza Lesufi thing, but the ANC doesn't deserve anything. It's shameful. I mean, 30 years. They own this. Pit latrines are their fault. No electricity in schools, their fault. No computers in school, their fault. No buses for kids. No people paying school. That's all on the ANC. They've had 3 decades and trillions of rand to fix this. There you go. That's my assessment.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would you say that Neil de Beer has a struggle credential in this country?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one reason a lot of Afrikaners don't like you.
No. They don't like me. They hate me. You know that.
I was being generous. I was being generous.
No, but let's call it because I'm going somewhere.
Okay.
So you will recognize that I was an MK soldier. You would recognize, you have spoken to a lot of people about me. They know me. So it's not, and you cannot, I'm going to make it very clear, you can never tell me that I am racist. Never. No. I gave my life, my family, I gave that up to fight racism. Yes or no?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and by the way, not to get off the topic, but I was going to mention a few minutes ago, you are a grandfather. Congratulations, and you've also got a small child in school. Neil, I think you spend a lot of time in the clubs, brother. Too much, you know.
So Yemi, when I speak in this country, there is one thing that Julius Malema, Jacob Zuma, all of the ANC that they can never say to me, which they will say to you, which they can say to all other white people in this country. You're a racist. You are white minority capital. You cannot pin that on me, Chris. You cannot pull that crap on me. Are we clear?
Oh, 100%. You're right. And that's right. That's absolutely true. Your credentials are legitimate.
So when I speak of an opinion on the economy, on the management of the country, on the economic collapse, on the management collapse, on the absolute devastation of local government, I can stand here and tell you I have no racial prejudice. And if you bring it up that you're a racist, I will tell you to go to hell. So hear me well. I can sit here and tell you that the African National Congress, who I fighted for, worked for, and tried to liberate this country for, I'm telling you today, it's a failure. They have failed. They must get out of Dodge. They were a prolific liberation entity but they suck as a government. Now, they tell me that the first way to get out of being an alcoholic, Chris, is to admit you're an alcoholic. The first way of redemption from any addiction is admitting you're addicted. Yes or no?
Absolutely, 100%. You got to admit you got a
bloody
problem.
ANC, this bloody ANC of now, not my ANC, Chris Wyatt, not the Mandela ANC, not that ANC. This ANC I do not recognize. I cannot tell you that I know any one of these people. So, and you can see, ek raak sommer moerig. Listen to me. They sold us out. Now, when this election came, and you know I contested that election, I was part of the multi-party charter, not to destroy the ANC, not to murder the concept of liberation, but to remove them from governance because they failed. Now, Chris, in conclusion on this point, they are refusing to acknowledge they're gone. They are refusing to acknowledge that they got 40%. They are refusing to let go of this carcass as a bunch of hyenas. And as true as God, Chris, strike me down. They were defeated. We took them down. I said 45. You said beyond 40. They got 40. They were removed from power. En wragtig, as true as Bob, we bring them back to governance because of the feeling of unity. I cannot accept that.
No, I got you. But you're right. They were defeated, and the problem is they're not acting as if they lost. They're acting as if they're the kingmakers. They are the weak party. They are the party that lost 42% of their previous. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable how much vote they lost. It's shocking. And frankly, let me go.
Sorry,
go ahead.
I'm not bashing the DA.
Well, I'm about to bash the DA, but go ahead.
I'm not interested in dissolving and attacking the GNU. I am not interested because I'll tell you on record. Leon Schreiber, you know him?
Yeah.
Doing bloody well.
Oh, doing brilliantly. I think so. So far, off to a great start. Off to a great start.
Bloody well. Guyton McKenzie.
Back and forth.
Doing well.
Yeah,
doing well.
Yeah, mostly.
Forget about him. He's actually doing well.
He's actually doing something. There you go.
So, give credit where credit is due. He's turned a ministry that is normally a sideline into something that I must tell you I'm quite okay.
And the people are paying attention
Minister
to.
Mchunu, the new Minister of Police.
Yeah.
Give this man an accolade. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's all not death. But listen to me. I have hope that this GNU will stand. But I'm sorry to tell you, we are in for rocky waters. Because if they couldn't defend the BELA bill, they are not going to stop the NHI bill. And they are not going to stand land without compensation. They are not going to be able to stop them.
Well, if land expropriation without compensation goes through, it will be the death of Southwest economy. There'll be no foreign direct investment unless it's a dirty deal like the Chinese get, where you get exclusive, industrial zones. People won't go there. I won't put my money in South Africa if people can just take my land because my skin pigmentation is wrong, or because they want to give it. That's a whole other. I've talked extensively. I've written about land expropriation and the whole situation, land restitution, and the whole process, and the lies about it and what's going on there. I mean, it's just the stupidity of the ANC publicly telling people they want to put 1 million people on subsistence farming. That is not the path to economic prosperity. That's not going to lift those people up out of poverty. That's not going to help the country. It's just idiotic. In the 21st century, industrialized agriculture is necessary and successful and has the scale that makes it possible to be profitable, but you can't do it in subsistence farming. It just doesn't work. But yeah, no. Okay, so back to the GNU. I have said from the outset of this grand coalition that it is the best possible outcome from what the voting results were. and that
Agreed.
and so I don't criticize the agreement, and I have no objections to the agreement given the reality. We have to face political reality. That's reality. So I mean, I don't want to see MK. I don't want to see EFF in government at all. So this is the best possible outcome. It is concerning, as we've both stated, that none of the security cluster is under the control of these minor parties in the coalition. But I will make the statement, I do find it offensive to hear the DA walk around. They're not doing much now, but they did it in the immediate aftermath of the election like they won something, like they improved. They didn't improve. They lost votes. John Steenhuisen's party got 115,000 fewer votes than Musi Maimani did in 2019 when he tried to be the ANC light. And the DA is a party in decline. Whether it's terminal decline will be determined, I think, in the next municipal elections. But the DA under Helen Zille reached its zenith, 4,004,000 votes. They are down to 3.5 million. Now, admittedly, it's an election where nobody turned out, but that's an election where you can do better, and that's why they held their own. But they didn't gain anything. The only major party that went anywhere up was the IFP, and that was because of the chaos in KZN the past couple of years. And they gained a little bit, but not a lot. MK, new phenomenon. It's a cult of personality. I can't really consider that, but I'm talking about the existing parties. So the only one that did better really was the MK, or was not MK, but it was IFP under Chlebisa. But the DA didn't do better, and I will criticize that when they try to make the claim. They backed off it now. Now they're focusing on governance, which is what they should do. But they shouldn't crow about we did better. You know, it's like the stupid slogan, the DA get things done, and then you look at the Cape Flats. You know, what do they get done? I mean, that I'm not saying that, but that's what the other side would say. So I will criticize the DA for that, but I'm not going to criticize him being the government. I do think it's a little bit puzzling for John Steenhuisen to be the leader and be the agriculture minister. I'm not sure why that happened. And frankly, the deputy president should have been from a coalition partner. That would show more genuine contrition and contribution. That would be more a sign of unity if the deputy president wasn't Paul Mashatile, but it was Peter Groenewald or Chlebisa. I thought it should be Chlebisa, but it wasn't him. And they kept Paul Mashatile. The man has got more corruption charges than Joe Biden's got dead memory cells, you know?
Got a theory.
What's that?
I have a theory.
Ah, you have a theory. Okay, this I want to hear. Okay, it's your floor. Go ahead.
It's hypothetical.
Oh, sure.
You are telling me that a guy with the character of John Steenhuisen will sit at a bargaining table and not take a powerful ministry, but go for Minister of Agriculture. Really? So here's the theory. Rubbish. So let me tell you how it works. If you're a minister, you serve at the pleasure of the president, not the pleasure of parliament. The president elects and appoints. He appoints ministers and deputy ministers. Yes?
Correct, 100%. That's who they respond to. They're cabinet members. They serve at his pleasure.
Now the law says only 2 members within the president's cabinet may be people that are not members of parliament. So he may choose out of his whole cabinet 2 people that do not serve as an MP. So in Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet, he used both of those seats, right? The deputy president of this country also serves at the pleasure of the president, although elected at an ANC conference to say who would be the president and the vice president should they win. This is obvious. Now, can you imagine Helen Zille, Tony Leon, John Steenhuisen, and the rest sitting around the table and saying, we want deputy president? Cyril is sitting there and he's saying to himself, without them, I have no power. Paul Mashatile is gunning for my seat. He's not popular with us. He's actually on the side of the other grouping. If I remain president, the GNU lasts. Paul Mashatile comes in, Lesofie comes in, GNU's gone. So he's got to sit there and he's got to say, okay, but now he's got to keep the ANC happy. Because remember, there's factions in the ANC. And Paul Mashatile is a faction. Cyril is a faction. Fikile Mbalula is a faction. Lesofie is a faction. And Jacob Zuma is also a faction in the ANC. Yes, he is. So now you've got to cover the nuts. What if the president said, no, let's ride it out? Because one or other time, Paul Mashatile is going to get charged. And he's not going to get charged by Cyril. He's going to get charged by the overwhelming push to stop corruption because the GNU partners are demanding. So he says, okay, let him stay as vice president, but we all know his time is absolutely limited, hypothetically. Now, should the vice president of this country be removed because of the step-aside clause and because of formal charges, remember that's the caveat, he must be formally charged by the NPA to step down. Question. They can only then choose the deputy president position, as far as I know, from members of the cabinet. Why would you be Minister of Agriculture?
Well,
Anyway,
good question.
that is just hypothetical.
No, it's a lot of machinations there, and it is. I think look, Neil. Before we went on camera, I think you said it, as I recall. Yeah, it's not your words, but your sentiments. Never a dull day in South African politics, and people wonder why I cover South Africa. I mean, why would I not cover South Africa? First off, I'm an Africanist, and in all of Africa, the most fascinating place is South Africa. The kaleidoscope of people, the culture, the languages, the natural, physical layout of the country. Everything from tropical weather on the East Coast to the Highveld to desert, semi-desert. You got it all. I mean, you got Mediterranean climate in Cape Town. It's an amazing country with amazing people. You can go all over, fascinating. It's just the politicians ruining it. That's the only problem.
Leadership.
Yeah,
if you look at Dubai and you go stand in Dubai, where I stayed for quite some time, they've got sand and they've got seawater. They had oil. But they are the most progressive economy in the top 10 in the world. We've got 8 times more resources than Dubai.
Yeah.
We have sun, we have arable land, we have water, we have it all. So the only difference why we are not an economic power in the world, let's call it straight, is because of the lack of leadership and the lack of people that have a backbone to get up and say, we are going to rebuild this country. Oops, now I'm starting to sound like someone familiar. So I'm saying, you want to talk about make America great again? Sure. I want to make South Africa great again. And the only way to do that is zero tolerance on crime, donor. Take them out, squash them, and it's happening. We are starting to see a change. Number 2, get rid of this bloody unionists. We cannot afford unions anymore. Into Margaret Thatcher. I don't care. And the SACP, the South African Communist Party, please understand, Mr. Nzamande, you are not communists, you are bloody socialists. But because you printed 10,000 t-shirts, you are staying the SACP. So, you cannot run a democratic, corporate, capitalistic society if you are in partnership with the Communist Party and COSATU. Stop it now. Get rid of them, get them out, become economically viable, squash crime, make this a truly capitalist entity, sink the SOEs, shut them down, bring up competitiveness, talk about a living wage, challenge Nigeria, challenge Ghana, challenge Mozambique, challenge Ivory Coast, who are now popping up and becoming stable, and who are taking over the economic leadership from the once mighty South Africa. So there it is. There's
Ethiopia.
That's my plan.
Yeah, well, there you go. That makes a lot of sense. Ethiopia, you can throw in the mix too. They're becoming an economic powerhouse because
there
of this.
is no democracy in capitalistic states. Listen to me. Sorry, a company doesn't work on a democracy. There's a chairman, there's a CEO, and he makes the decisions, but he falls with them, Chris. We have a 92-member NEC junta that runs the ANC. Cyril, Yemi, has no power in this country.
Yep.
He doesn't have it.
I've said it before. I've said it, and you know he's weak because you look at his cabinet ministerial positions when he formed his government initially, when he first came in, full of radical economic transformation stalwarts, Zuma faction people dotted throughout his cabinet, and he still doesn't get work. I want to ask you a question about something you'll hear, and I don't know if you maybe have some insight you might want to share. This was a very puzzling selection for me. Not because I don't have any faith and confidence in the gentleman. He's a consummate gentleman and a good human being, and I've had lunch with him on multiple occasions and met with him, interviewed him many times. But was it a poison chalice that was handed to Peter Groenewald? Prisons? I mean, prisons are such a disaster, and there's not much press coverage of what he's doing there. I've got the impression, anecdotally from the outside, that he's making some headway in an underfunded and neglected segment of governance. Is it a poison chalice? Did Peter Groenewald make a bad decision, or was it a good decision to go there to make a difference for the people? And maybe that's more important. I don't know, because that one I was like, corrections? That kind of made me scratch my head. Any thoughts on the Peter Groenewald ministerial position?
I like that damn guy.
Yeah, I love him. He's great.
I don't call him Peter Groenewald. I call him Peter.
Yeah.
He's my senior. I served a year with Peter Groenewald. Now, I don't care what rifts he has in his party, because there are.
Oh, there are. Yeah, no, I know. I'm dealing with
I don't
that.
care about their politics. I want to quickly spend 2 minutes on a man called Peter Groenewald. Now, I don't know of him. I don't know about him. I bloody know him. I served with him on the MPC leadership for a year and a half. So maybe I've got a better overview of being in that room with him. So here it is. That man, if there was a man that I would give 2 ministries to today, I would give it to him. One, I would have made him Minister of Defense, undoubtedly. Or, yes, Minister of Correctional Services. Because his attitude is very clear. Jy's of reg, of jy's weg. He's got that boere mentality. There's no grey. You're either right or wrong. You will not be rude. You will have some decorum, and you will have bloody manners. Now, I dared one day, Chris. I dared as a young lion to pull his ear. I said something in public about him. I was out of line. I stretched a bit of politics, and the next very minute, that man sent me a WhatsApp and told me, never get arrogant, never leave your God, and always remain in the truth. I, therefore, got shut out. I took myself as uitgekak. That's it. And the next time I saw him, I walked up to him and I said, Doc, baie jammer. He took my hand and he said, no problem. Sorry, that's a man. So, if there's any man, and it is clear here in my country, I'm seeing it, he's mooring them. He's currently turning every jail upside down. He's putting in cell blockers to cut signals. He's refusing people to just walk out on parole. He's revamping the system of leadership, rank, and order in correctional services. Now, if there is ever a place where we need that attitude, then that is the man for the moment. So I am 100% behind that man, and I'll tell you, I'm here, you are seeing it, he's doing a good job. Because why? He's a militarist, he comes out of the army, he understands it, he has that kind of backbone. So I'm telling you, green dot, great work, and we should keep going. There's a definite change in the Department of Correctional Services.
Well, that's brilliant to hear, and the problem is that it's not getting much press coverage, and it's difficult for fine stuff anecdotally. I haven't bothered to reach out for an interview because I'm not really sure, and I've been busy, but I'm also not really sure how things play out with being in a coalition now. I mean, when he was in the Freedom Front Plus, I could reach out to his PA, and I'll probably do that and ask what the rules are now.
You must. He's accessible.
Okay, good. I'll do that because
he would be a good guest.
Oh, he'll be a great guest. We've had him on many times, but it'd be good to have him on being in government and talking about what's happening in corrections, because we know that the prisons are abysmal. It's the system is so broken. I mean, look, obviously the most famous nonsense that's happened with prisons in recent history has been the Thabo Bester situation, that disaster. But I mean, leadership is needed there to fix that. And the point I made earlier is that these ministers, with the exception of sports, arts, and culture, I don't know that it needed to be fixed or not be fixed. It seemed like it was maybe a minor ministry, but Gayton's shaking things up there. But the other ministries, the ones given the DA, are ones that were thoroughly broken and corrupt and dysfunctional. And quite frankly, if the ANC wants to succeed, people need to stop standing in line for 19 hours a day at Home Affairs trying to get their passports sorted out or their national ID, and things like that. Those are things getting fixed. And the ANC will benefit from that because people won't be angry about things that don't get fixed anymore. So it works to their advantage, but not getting up a security cluster. So I think that
Chris,
yeah, good.
Sorry, I'd like to add.
Yeah.
This country is not a normal country.
Well, that's for sure.
If there is, that's a profound statement, and I'll clarify it. This country, in its most darkest moment, in the time where apartheid was de facto done, Mandela was going to become president and did. We went through a very, very trying time as a nation.
Necklacing,
We had
all that
wars in
nonsense.
KZN.
Yep.
We had IFP attacking the ANC. We had Inkatha fighting gun battles. We had the IFP walking out. We had Constant Viljoen resisting also an election. You have the implosion of the current republics that were in our country, Ciskei,
The
Bophuthatswana.
Bantustans, yep.
We had the AVB getting up and saying, we will burn this country. We had two people. If it declared, you can knock him like you want to and call him what you want to, but he has a seat in history. He will be known in infamy. And Nelson Mandela. If there's one notable moment, and I was there, that changed this country, it was not the election, it was not Mandela, it was rugby. It was rugby. A 95 World Cup clearly solidified the hope of a better future when that man, Mandela, raised Rugby World Cup with Francois Pienaar's jersey. 70,000 people that day in that stadium said, Nelson, Nelson. I was there, black and white. So if there's something that Gayton knows, it is that sport in this country, not different to others, but I'm talking about my country, that sport is a unifier and can do more than any bloody politician in this country. Sport, trikkers, hulle weet nou nog nie wat hy al ons weet. Rugby, you're a commentator, you are a passionate rugbyman, you know the game. So when you look at Gayton, forget about him, talk about him as character. He's loving it, man. He's at every game.
Oh, that's
he's
obvious.
out there. But that's okay, because let him bring Trickers' fight here, let him bring F1 Grand Prix here, let him come, because you know why? Maybe like Peter Groenewald needed to murder the people in jail, Gayton needed to make his apartment attractive. So
yeah, no doubt about that. He's definitely a character, and he brings it. Maybe that's why he's the right guy for the position, because he's a character. But I want to. I don't know if you had a chance. I presume you probably did, but maybe you didn't. Watch the last two tests against the All Blacks. The performance by both artists and the crowd, especially the first one, it was the artist who let the crowd get in, and then the second one, the artists were almost drowned out. But in Zikilele Africa, oh my goodness. Everybody in the stadium singing not just the Afrikaans stanza, but every bit of it. It was goosebumps. It was incredible. It's so refreshing to see that. I pushed so hard for people to go to these games, and we had sellout crowds for these things. It's amazing. It's so exciting. I don't think that the Nelspruit game is going to be a sell against Argentina, but it'll be a big crowd. And you're right. Sport can unify people. I mean, look at the Olympics. The South Africans they did okay, not great. They did okay. Tatiana Schoolmaker confused me because she got married. I didn't know who we were talking about. That was the same woman. It's kind of like, wait a second, she looks familiar.
Yeah. Chris, can you please tell your audience you are your interview. A World Cup.
Yes, you are. You do have you have World Cup credentials. Was it the under 20? Was the under 20 team? Or, yeah,
It was part of the management of the Springbok under 21 rugby team that won the World Cup in Argentina in 2005.
There you go. I can't claim that. I'd love to have that in my trophy case. That would be nice.
Yes, I do.
No, I said I'd love to have it in my trophy case. That'd be nice.
I know. But here's the thing. I'm not talking about it. I was there. I was there. I was part of a World Cup. So I know what sport, what people like you that's passionate about us can do. But I'd like to formally, and I do, introduce everyone that I meet with the following sentence before I greet them. Good day. My name is Neil de Beer, and we are the current world champions in rugby. What can I do for you?
Well, you've been able to say this since 2019. You get to say it till 2027. Hopefully, 2030 beyond that.
If the GNU could be taught by Rassi.
There you go. There you go.
We will change this country quicker than any one of the people in government, including me.
That may be the case. Hendo, who lives up in the UK now, he's a Western Cape colored gentleman, fantastic guy, put a thumbs up for Taryn Land. Okay, my viewers know, those who are regular viewers, like I got a schoolboy crush. I think she's an amazing performer, and I'm just killing to interview her. I'm dying to interview her. Her song Fear Voda, that's the first time I ever heard her sing. I watched that video all the time on the road to nowhere in Cape Town where it was filmed at. It's amazing. If on the slide there, if you happen to know somebody that knows Taryn Lamb, if you could put me in touch with her, I'm dying to interview her. I've wanted to interview her for a long time. But her performance was off the charts, and the fans were just amazing. It was great to see. But the Bucks have got to be careful. There's a trap waiting for them. Los Pumas have their dander up. They walloped the Wallabies, and I covered that game. Oh my goodness, it wasn't just a beatdown. It was like a sandbox Saturday, all day long.
Okay. We played them. We won the World Cup in 2005 for the under 21s in Argentina.
Right.
And I spent 4 weeks in Mendoza, which is their capital, which is their wine capital. It's just on the border between Chile and Argentina. So that's where we were, and we were doing the World Cup there. So Argentina came into my soul. Their trick is a very unique scrumming capability, and they gave it a name. It's called the bajada. They call it a name. Their scrumming technique is called the bajada. And what their scrumming technique is, and you will always see it now that you know, they are the scrumming entity in the world that scrums the lowest. They take you to pass gravity intentionally. They then wait and hover just above gravity. When they engage, this is the bajada, they have a call. One of them will call, and then they do this. They totally fold in. So first they squeeze like that, and then they do that. That whole pack of 8, they just do. They firstly do that, and then they do that, and then they go beyond the level of gravity, and then they moor you. It's called the bajada, and that was always what made them unique. Not the other maneuvers, the backline moves, because they were still getting there, but that was their strength. What has changed? They still have the bajada, but now they've got the fact that Argentinian players are playing internationally. They're learning from France. They're learning from England. They're learning from Japan. They're learning from across the world. And when they come together, they've had the perfected bajada, and now they're also concentrating on their backline. Argentina is not a walkover like it used to be.
No, they're definitely not. I mean, they did well in the World Cup as well. They're going to have to do it going forward without renowned and longtime Puma Augustin Creve, who announced his retirement a couple of games ago and played his last game. But Julian Montoya is right behind him in test, almost as many as Creve, but he was off the bench for years until he replaced Creve. But he'll soon surpass him. I think Augustin went out with 110 tests, and Montoya must have like 104, 106, something like that. So it passed him soon. But look, the Los Pumas are always entertaining to watch, particularly in the World Cup. They're up and down sometimes. The Rugby Championship, I don't think really suited them well because it's such long travel for them everywhere they go. I mean, for South Africa, they split the distance going to Australia or going to Argentina. The Argentines have to fly around the world for everything. So, it's a little bit harder. Yeah.
And by the way,
yeah.
I don't know if you know,
yeah.
the name Las Pumas was given to them by us. Did you know that?
By the Springboks?
No. By the old president of the SA Rugby Board, Mr. Danny Craven. Dr. Danny Craven.
Oh, Danny Craven. Okay. Craven Week. Danny Craven. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Gave them the name.
Okay.
Pumas.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah? So, Chris, just on you've got less than 50 days before a remarkable day in York.
All right, let's talk about...
It seems they just want to kill this guy.
Yeah, let's talk about that, and then we'll hold the BELA bill for a little bit longer. But yeah, it's bat crap crazy over here. I mean, as Katie Hopkins says about the UK, it's batshit bonkers UK. Well, it's batshit bonkers United States right now. My goodness. I mean, if it wasn't for windage and, a PowerPoint slide that he turned to view, Donald Trump's head would have been blown off. Just gone in an instant like that. And then we have this nonsense where a guy sits in a hide position on public space where cars are driving by all day long for 12 hours, Neil.
And then, he had a cam.
Yeah, he had a GoPro, he had everything. But he was in the high position for 12 hours, and they're like, it was a success. Wasn't a success. Who the hell doesn't walk the perimeter of it? And I could go to the electronics store and buy a freaking Chinese drone for $300 and fly it around the perimeter. It lasts 20 minutes, but then you have 6 of them. You keep charging the battery. This is insanity. And today, I don't know what the true story is. I did a live broadcast. I went live because the story broke. I don't normally do that, but given the environment and the circumstances of what's been happening to Trump, I felt it necessary because the Daily Mail said they had confirmed from the Nassau County Police that, in fact, they found explosives in a car. So based on that confirmation, I went with the story. Not too long, but I also told people, I said, we have to see. We don't know what's going on here. We have to confirm it. But if it's true, this is insane. Well, there's a report that came in later on from a public information officer. I didn't say who or where. It says, no, it's not true, that there was just an incident and there was no bomb or explosives. I don't know what's going on here, but things are so ratcheted up on this side of the Atlantic that people just lose their mind instantly. So we don't know the current circumstances of what's happening in Long Island. There may or may not have been explosives out there, but there's certainly some miscommunication going on. And if it's untrue, a journalist from the One American Network has put his reputation on the line because he said that the Nassau County Police, he was there on the scene, confirmed to him, and he saw a guy run away from the car when the police went to it. So, I mean, I don't know what's going on. But
the latest on Long Island
is
that it was the person that was doing a security operation with a dog, that's a sniffer dog for explosives, who then said publicly, bomb. And when he said bomb, there was a media person in the vicinity who then cried foul, and that obviously was escalated. So I saw that 2 minutes before I came.
That is believable, but it's piss poor journalism.
But no matter how we sell it, when you cry that from now on and you put assassination bomb gun next to Trump, surely it makes that country on a tender edge, on a major problem rolling into this election.
Yep, 100%. And that's so it's a tinderbox right now. It's crazy. And we have the media blaming Donald Trump for it. But Neil, since November of last year, the entire Democratic Party's campaign was based on calling Donald Trump a threat to democracy. This man is a tyrant. He's the second coming of Hitler. And I'm like, wait a second. He was president. He didn't have martial law. He didn't collude with the tech companies to silence content creators and to shut down public discourse. He didn't knock on people's doors and arrest them because they opposed abortion. That's all happened under this regime. That didn't happen under Trump. So but they've been ratcheting up the rhetoric for a year. What did they expect was going to happen? And the abysmal performance of an agency with $3.8 billion in annual funding, and they only protect 42 people around the world. That's it. And they can't manage to do basic. Neil, how as a police officer could you ever allow a concert or an event and not have sniffer dogs and have police walk around the perimeter at least once to see what's going on before someone shows up? And I don't want to hear the nonsense. It was an unplanned event. That's nonsense. If it's unplanned event, then you keep the president in a secure location while you do the perimeter sweep. Then you let him go off, and they can overrule him. Go ahead.
We used to have what they call the 5-barrier onion code. Mm-hmm. You start with the outer, sink it to 4, collapse 3, concentrate on two and totally iron dome. One. Then you would absolutely create that buffer zone. We would put the eye in the sky. We would do heat seeking. We would do perimeter watch. We would have our sniffer entities. We have our lookouts. We would have our snipers. And we would have total control of that buffer zone. This was not done. And the only people that can be blamed are the people that were in control of that. Sorry.
Well, and quite frankly, where is our president? I've never seen a situation like the president should have had a press conference and said, listen, for the past year, both sides have been ratcheting up the rhetoric. It's political rhetoric.
Calm it down.
We need to calm it down. We should not be targeting our candidates. Let's have the deciding vote on November 5th. Everyone calm down. Stop the nonsense. But there's no leadership for Biden.
It's not narrative, Chris. It's not suiting someone's narrative.
Exactly. And that's why I hold Joe Biden accountable. That's not leadership. He needs to be a leader and step out and say, calm this thing down. Look, I mean, it's unbelievable. With this, I can't believe this deal. This is crazy. I mean, this is not what I expect to grow up. I mean, I've lived through now 3 assassination attempts of my president, Ronald Reagan, and twice with Donald Trump. And it's just shocking. It's absolutely shocking. We saw this in Slovakia where they tried to kill the prime minister earlier this year, and they actually he actually shot him. This political violence is just wrong. It needs to be stopped.
My statement this morning on this, because obviously our weekly comments are focused on the US, because the US, no matter what you do, is still the most powerful entity in the world. Mm-hmm. And I said to a journalist, it's amazing that the most powerful country in the world is currently in a debate about power, in the taking of power, and in the devolution of power. And that is causing the world to go off its gyro and to feel this is going into the abyss. Because no matter what you say, what happens there to you has an impact on South Africa. It has. And therefore, we are sitting with the stability of the GNU. We've got a country that went to China. The whole government went to China.
Oh, I saw John there.
They're all shaking hands. And I'm saying to myself, what do you think America thinks? What do you think Europe thinks? Now, I know we've got to get out of that eccentric and Eurocentric ideology, but you cannot divorce the economies of scale. So what message are we sending? And that's also in the GNU. One day, all the ministers that were outside the GNU said, we do not want China, we do not want India, we hate BRICS, BRICS must go. It is an absolute socialistic awareness. It is not a capitalistic partner. We would prefer the West. We've always wanted the AGOA agreement. We always want that in place. And then the day that you put up your hand and you go, so help me God, then you suddenly become numb. You keep quiet. And that's why I say, I don't know where we are as a country. We are at this moment directionless. Which economy are we in? Who are we supporting? What are we promoting? And at the same time, the one that normally comes in and steers us, like it or not, which is the United States, they themselves are currently, in my opinion, not finding direction.
So we're rudderless. That's what you want to say in English. We're rudderless. We don't have a rudder. Yeah, we can't navigate because the rudder's broken and we're just spinning around in the water at the mercy of the currents. And that's really where we're at. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Myanmar's military illegitimately overthrew its government 3 years ago, within 9 days of Biden taking office. He said virtually nothing about it. Over 5,000 civilians have been killed in what some people argue is a genocide. I don't know if it qualifies for genocide under the definition, but it's certainly a horrific situation, and there's virtually no attention from the world. We've got the Chinese, harvesting organs from Uyghurs, putting them in concentration camps and prisons because they're Muslims. We've got Chinese illegal colonial occupation of Tibet, which is completely forgotten. No one talks about that. We know the ANC's position there. They've twice denied a visa to the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama, who denied? The guy supported the liberation movement with his effort, his heart, his soul, his prayers. The coolest dude on the planet. I mean, he's a threat to nobody. The Dalai Lama wants to come for the racism conference. And so he wanted to come for racism conference, and they didn't give him a visa because their Chinese overlords said no. Then he wanted to come for Desmond Tutu's 80th birthday. I mean, this is it's beyond the pale. The world is, you're correct. And look, this isn't because I'm an American. We're both honest here about geopolitical reality. When the United States catches a cold, the world gets the flu. It's as simple as that. I mean, look
We've
at
got
how.
pages exploding.
Look at how.
Pages
Well, yeah. Well, I was
exploding. We've
gonna.
got now two-way
I was
radio.
going to ask you. Have you gotten rid of all the pagers and the walkie-talkies in your house? I'm a little concerned because I'm sitting here with 3 mobiles on my desk, and I'm wondering when they're going to start exploding.
But take the callous humor that we always have because we've been at war, both of us.
Yeah.
Look at it and say to yourself, Russia, Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, Africa on the west side of this continent,
The whole Sahel.
all under military junta,
Yeah.
the United States in a battle of its leadership, the United Kingdom having a
gone.
dribbling food,
They're gone.
gone. Europe being invaded by Sub-Asia and North Africa. You are sitting back and you go, when someone said to me, how close are we at the end of times? And I must tell you, I think we're bloody close, because what is going to come out of this? So I think if you look at the BELA bill, the BELA bill is not about the actual bill. It's not about us saying ANC says so we are saying no. I think we're over that. I think we are looking at NHI, we're looking at the BELA bill, we're looking at land, we're looking at the nationalization of Reserve Bank, we're looking at where's ESCOM going, we're looking at where is the SOEs going, we're looking at where's our trade agreements going, we're looking at cartels, Mexican and Colombian, now coming into our country and taking over, extortion, construction mafia, looting, not one person in the top end of the Zondo Commission. Yes, so I'm running out of... So these are the negatives we are facing. And all I want, going into the darkness of mist, is to leave a country for my children and now grandchild. And saying that what you said, Chris, we have the most unbelievable country on earth. But they say you find the largest proportion of people that have potential in a graveyard. So my question is, will we rise to our potential as a nation? They asked Morgan Freeman one day, how do you get racism away from black and white? And Morgan Freeman said, stop calling them black and white.
Yep.
We are currently riding this racism, this scheme, this demographic, this apartheid. I fought apartheid. So when I tell you, ek is nou gatvol, I am now getting to the equilibrium of stop it now. I tweeted on X, on Twitter, owned by a South African. I tweeted there. I said, stop this now. Because if you go onto Twitter, X, and you put a statement, then you're either stupid, you're ignorant, or they call you a racist. Is that the level of debate that intellectuals and adults in our country and in your country, is that the level that we have gone to? Well, sad. Then I'll pack my bags, I'll go build myself a bloody igloo, and I'll braai boerewors in either the North or the South Pole.
Well, I'd recommend Argentina. The scenery is much better, and you don't have to worry about...
And good meat.
Yeah,
And good meat.
and good meat. But also, you don't have. There's lots of minerals there. Maybe you can open a mine and get wealthy. Antarctica is absolutely gorgeous. A little bit dicey weather at times, but yeah, no, the world is absolutely crazy. Free speech and assembly are under assault. Freedom of thought is under assault. The United Kingdom is gone. Look, I realize the circumstances. The kid was at a rally that was antagonistic with a mosque and Muslims, but he committed no crime. He was carrying a United Kingdom flag in the United Kingdom, not even the England flag. He's carrying the United Kingdom. That's the actual country, even though it's comprised of multiple countries. And he was sent to jail for 2 years and 2 months for carrying a flag. How can the United Kingdom's flag be a divisive symbol and a criminal act in a republic? On top of that, the gentleman who was at one of those events, and he committed no crime according to the judge. There's no crime he can charge him with to remand him to prison. However, he said, you were present. Therefore, you must be remanded. It's not even a crime. He got 18 months in prison. That is gone. There is no liberty. That's insane. Look, there are people who committed crimes based on the false reporting about the kids who stabbed those kids and led to all kinds of violence. But a lot of those crimes are committed by people who immigrated into the country, who are living there, or first or second generation people who gathered up and were antagonistic towards others as well. I saw videos of people being beaten in the streets on both sides of the aisle, and it's almost entirely one-sided. That government is gone. There's no liberty. The German government's the same way. They are spying on the Alternative for Deutschland, claiming the Alternative for Deutschland is a party that is involved in terroristic activity. They have no evidence of it, but the government allows them to do wiretaps. They listen on their phones, all their communications or emails legally. Well, that's nonsense. They're not doing that to the SPD and CDU, and they're doing it because they're lying about the AFD. Yeah, there's probably a few racists in their party, but there's also racists in the CDU and the CSU, and people who are don't believe in the government. But that's not a good basis. This is crazy. The developed world has lost its mind. The only place in the world where you can speak your mind still, I think, is Japan for the moment. And maybe because they got so many old people, they need people to come there, so they're not going to silence you. But you're being silenced in China, you're being silenced in the UK, being silenced in the US by this government colluding. And in South Africa. And speaking of that, look, I mean, I don't know if you want to, well, the BELA is part, well, that's definitely true. But I don't know if you want to get into it, but I mean, the whole thing with Roman Kabanak, he's a government employee, at least for the moment, not a DA employee. People lose sight of that. The government vetted him when he got hired. You don't just get hired, you get background check and such. And then the whole thing with Ronaldo Khuz, for a video that was 15 years ago, forget what's in the video. Let's just ignore that for a second. He wasn't a member of the DA. He was vetted. He went through the process. He was put on their list. They picked him. He got into Parliament. He has not violated any parliamentary rules. He's not committed any crimes. He's not made any public statements that are derogatory towards the government or towards his party. He's done nothing. This is for an act that occurred in a video he made a political point about, which, by the way, he's proving daily, 15 years ago. Meanwhile, Ronnie Lamola is in the States talking to the Black Congressional Caucus Foundation, spewing racial hatred about white South Africans. I mean, that's bringing disrepute on the ANC at this very moment. The whole thing is crazy. You can't have free speech. I'm not defending or attacking what Ronaldo said. I'm just saying that that's BS. Anyway, go ahead.
What goes for the goose must go for the gander.
Yeah, agreed.
So again, here's Neil de Beer. Struggle credential. Small one, but it is. So here's my opinion. Number one, Ronaldo Khuz is not my fan. In actual fact, he has had nothing good to say about me.
You were 100% correct. I know Ronaldo. I don't think he's ever said anything positive about you, Neil. You're correct.
No. So what I'm going to tell you now might come as a surprise.
No, it won't come as a surprise because I think I know you, Neil. Go ahead.
So I don't need to like you. I don't need to be your friend. To be fair. To be a person that needs to be fair. Fairness is not about liking this. Fairness is about adjudicating if you are a man, a person of honor, if you can define what is right and wrong. So, let me be fair. Ronaldo Khuz, now that you know, we don't sit around the fire because he's only attacked me. I've never said anything to him. So coming from there, I have no equity. I have no reason to be positive about him, but here it comes. Clear. He was not a DA member when he joined the Member of Parliament for the first time. This man, Ronaldo Khuz, was a city councillor in local government for years of the DA. So, whoa, hang on. He was in the DA serving as an official in government. He then goes and he becomes a member of parliament. So this is now a new Ronaldo Khuz. But are you an idiot? This is the same guy. So let's go to the DA. The DA employed him. The DA appointed him. He worked for the DA, not in parliament. He was a councillor. But when he becomes a member of parliament, and people now are screaming, wait a minute, no forgiveness, no fairness, chastise this guy, because if you had to take some videos of me of 15 years ago, I'll be sent to jail. So, whoa. So we destroy this man because to the benefit of acting nice in a grand coalition and not wanting to piss off people, we hang him. But we don't hang Julius Malema for singing "Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer." We don't take this man to jail for effectively firing a weapon in public. That's still going on. We don't chastise this guy when he physically assaults a police officer. We don't chastise this guy when he calls for killing. Whoa! One right doesn't make another wrong. I understand that. I'm not an idiot, but I'm saying I think he was hard done by. Because Nelson Mandela, Nelson Rolihlahla Madiba Mandela, spoke about reconciliation. When do we forgive in this country? Now, the Chief of Staff of John Steenhuisen, same boat, same scenario. He must now be known as the most ex-known Chief of Staff in this country, because the Chief of Staff is not known. But he was made known. Now again, talking to me, the convicted terrorist. We've got to stop this now. Because if you get up and you say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Yes, I did. There it is. I'm not running away. It's too public to run away. Sure. But will you allow me to make retribution? Will you allow me to fix in action, not just in word? No. He's branded as a racist. He's gone. He's weg. Now, that is in this country what I have a bloody problem with. Once you label a person as a racist, Chris, it must be the same as calling a person a pedophile. That tag never leaves you. That tag remains with you. That tag kills you. Because you know they'll put it on the front page today and they'll do the apology on page 46. So, yes, I know. In this country, that tag is an abused tag. I don't use that tag anymore. I used to. Make no mistake, you know that. I used to use that tag. Racist. Yes, I'm racist. But I've gone older. Am I not allowed to change? So now I don't judge you on what you say. I don't judge you on your rhetoric. I judge you on your soul. I judge you on your action. And that's where I would like to leave that. I am absolutely, vehemently disappointed that his party, no matter what they do, because I'll tell you something else. Helen Zille, I'll tell you this today. Helen Zille is also not a racist, Chris. And no one will call her that in my presence. Then you must go to hell. I know that about her. In actual fact, I told that to her. She might be misunderstood. She might say it. But I'm telling you, there's not a racist bone in Helen. She has a strong opinion. She does what she wants to. And she is in control. Sure. I know many people like that. But to go and actually sacrifice people's careers, because no matter, and I'll close on this one, are you going to carry that label for life? Am I going to be called a farrier and I'm going to be called a sellout? Am I going to be called a communist and I'm going to be called a terrorist for the rest of my life? My God, because I've changed, man. Look at me. Yeah. I've beaten cancer 3 times. Cancer in the past 5 years. I have survived it. I have given my life to the righteous. I have partaken in a country that needs to build non-racial, non-sexist, non-religious biased entity. And I am failing to get that across. So you can see, heat comes when I'm saying, can we just stand back and not put people into a position to sacrifice them? This is totally against my thinking. You should know that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's that was my point. There's just 2 issues. Number one, having seen the entire video, I find it unappealing what he said, but I don't find it to be criminal. I also don't find it to be racist. He was making a point and he didn't direct it at anybody when you see the video in context. But that's a whole separate issue. The way it was handled was intentional. It was a smear campaign. and they caved. They just simply caved. It shows to me no moral fiber in that political party. And also, when they announced that they kicked him out of the party, it was rather perfunctory and disrespectful. They said, Mr. Khos, if I had written that, message for the public, I'd have said, Member of Parliament Ronaldo Khos is being expelled from the party. Mr. Khos, that's how I would have handled it. I mean, that's a trivial point, but my point is it just shows the spirit of how it was done. This man has done so much, and I'm not defending Ronaldo. This is statements of fact. So much for the Democratic Alliance, particularly in Nelson Mandela Bay, where the government has been so fractious. And Athol Trollop had governorship or mayorship there, and it was in and out, and it's been difficult to govern that town. His ward is the best. Now, it's the wealthiest, let's be fair, but it is the best performing ward, the most responsive ward in Nelson Mandela Bay, consistently the whole time as a ward councilor. His public appearances, his promotion, his endless devotion to the DA, and they just kick him aside for something he never did as a DA member and is not a criminal act. It's cowardly in my view. And I tell you, this says a lot about the party. And the other thing it says about them is that they have yet to release, unless it came out last day or so, what he did wrong. They said he violated the Constitution. That's it. And somebody came out and defended the DA in my broadcast earlier and said, well, go read the Constitution. I don't need to read the Constitution. I need for them to tell me the sections that he violated, how he violated. Then I'll read the Constitution to see if I agree with them. It's good.
Sorry, I need to add before I lose it. I was a forward in run.
Yeah, it's senior moments. Go ahead.
I won't defend him if they're wrong.
Say again?
You use those two words, the K word and the N word.
Oh, you're done in South Africa, yeah.
You're done with me.
Yeah.
Because I won't stand for it.
Yep.
I just won't. I don't know how to explain it. It's a cringe. It's unnecessary. So I'm telling you, what happened to me is exactly what happened to Ronaldo Khos. It happened to me. A person in my party taped me when I went mad the one morning 2 years ago, and I was hurtful of being attacked at that stage by the ultra-right. They were bombarding me and my family with hate mail. So I got up the morning and I said, you know what? I have had it with white racists and I've had it with black racists. That's what I said. That was taped. And then they edited it, Chris. It's national. It's public. They edited, and all they said was, in the tape recording, Neil de Beer says he's klar with the white people. They did not play the 15 minutes of context. And let me tell you, they went to task with me. They murdered me. And I was saying, whoa, I said it, sir, but it's not a 2-minute clip. It was a 15-minute outburst of being attacked by both white and black racists. So I've been through that. I rectified it. We released it. We explained it. And then it was accepted. Now, I'm not defending Ronaldo. I will never condone or allow those words in any case to be used because it is pariah. But was it said in a certain context, Chris?
Yeah, that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. I
want to know, did he say N and K because he was attacking N and K, or was he using that in a context? It's wrong, I know it, but was it used in a context? Now, if you found him guilty because you have evidence, de facto evidence, that he said that on the attack and being a racist, that he hates K's and he hates N and blah, then he must go to hell.
Right, but that's not what happened. But that's not what happened. That is not what happened. Yep.
Then we've got to sit back and go, wow, hard done by.
What have we become? What have we become? If so, for instance, I'm reading John Laban's book on the Kosovo Boer Wars. You know, the 8 wars, 9 wars that took place there for supremacy in the Great Fish River and the Eastern Cape. And before the Trek Boys said the hell with this and went north. but I've read his book. It's fantastic. But of course, there's a region, and there was an actual, administrative area. It begins with a K and ends with a RIA. And can I even say that word in academic context without being canceled? That was the actual name of it. And he writes it in the book because it's necessary. Okay?
Just look what happened to us.
Yeah. It's
We
crazy.
can't speak anymore.
No, you can't.
Everything must be politically correct.
Well, it's like comedy. Comedy is dead. Comedians can't do comedy anymore because they all got thin skins. No, but so we had a situation that just occurred, not Ronaldo, but in the Northern Cape at Duneveld School, where these kids who are students there, who were black and colored, I think maybe they're all colored, but
Telling them as slaves.
yeah, well, no, not that. That's a different story. So maybe I get school confused, but they
can
were
you imagine?
right. But they're on TikTok. I'm talking about TikTok, and they're like, "Hey, what's up, my N? What's up, my K? Did you just call me K? Yeah, I called you K, brother." I mean that, and these kids are being disciplined, and like going to be kicked out of school. Look, it's inappropriate, but this is a parental responsibility, not a state responsibility. This is conflating good behavior with the state. The state has no responsibility for good behavior. The state is responsible for people committing criminal conduct. Criminalizing speech is dangerous. It goes from banning that word to the next thing, and it goes, people find an ability to destroy their opponent over something like this. And that's the problem with all this. And that's where we're at today. People are being censored. I mean, I've been threatened by this clown, accused me of saying things.
Yeah? Because I'm a boer.
Yeah?
I am a boer.
Yeah.
I was born on a farm outside Stellenbosch called Lynedam.
Okay.
Ek's Afrikaner. I am. Albertus Cornelius de Beer. But when you call me that, I understand what you're saying. But if you use it in a context to defame me, if you are using it in a context to belittle my culture, my history, and my taal, then I will take exception.
Yep.
Question is, one in this country is criminal. It is criminal. The K word in this country is a criminal offense.
It is.
Fact.
There's no free speech.
But boer isn't.
Yeah, and it's used in a derogatory, condescending fashion all too often.
When I, Chris, made the transition, I'm telling you, I didn't sell my people out in 94, Chris. In 1988, and I'm in a book called Undercover with Mandela Spy. It's a public book. Mm-hmm. It tells you my transition, why I took certain decisions. Call it what you want. You weren't there. When I noted that Nelson Mandela was not going to ask for retribution and Nuremberg trials in this country, that he was going to ask for reconciliation and the TRC, I decided as a young guy that was in the military and then in the security agencies, that I will support that man to get to freedom. Not for black, not for white. For dignity. Now we've got dignity. Right. We have got a non-racial society as depicted by the foundation, Chris, of the most unbelievable constitution of the ANC called the Freedom Charter. And the Freedom Charter starts with saying that we all agree that this land where we live must belong to everybody whom lives within it. And here's the caveat, it says so, black and white. It says so. So when we fundamentally decided that the Freedom Charter would also be included within the new constitution of this country, it did not exclude black and it did not exclude white. And I'll tell you that. That was never Mandela's attitude. And what very few people know is that Nelson Mandela at times had to fight his own comrades, had to fight his own leaders to bring reconciliation to this country. This is on record. That's why he said, if you take away the Springbok, which no doubt was the sport logo of the oppressor, if you want to call it. But that was then. Now this idiot, who's now called the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Relations, who was the Minister of Justice, goes and says that today, September 2024, that the people that are in government with him are still oppressors. I must reject this. He does not speak for me. So, Chris, we've got to come in this country to a point and stop doing tit for tat. And those that want war, those that want revolution, because I'm telling you, undeniably, you cannot write off MK. I am telling the people of this country, they are positioning themselves. I'm warning you. They are doing certain things that are very concerning to me. Now, I am MK. Did you know that?
Yes, I did know that, but that
am
MK is not this
I'm an
cult of,
MK veteran.
but this is your actual veteran, one of the actual handful of genuine veterans who are MK, but not the fake ones who claim it.
Why am I not part of MK?
Because it's a cult. It's a cult of personality political party. It's not actually MK. It's not
a cult.
It's not actually MK.
No, it's
just
a
name.
cult.
Yeah, it's a cult of personality.
And it's run by one family.
Yep, that's right. It's a family. It's a family affair. It's like a racketeering organization, no doubt about it. Yep.
So no.
And when Zuma leaves the stage, he passes away at some point, because we all pass in this life. And unless something dramatic happens in between now and then, that party will just evaporate. Those people.
Well, look at what they've done. I know we've got to land our plane, but look what they've done. They've brought in a retired judge president of the Western Cape.
John Schlope. Yep.
They brought him in. For what? Well, I'll tell you for what. He is a constitutionalist. He is a person that understands the law. So he is sitting there, and his job in that parliament is not to be a politician, but to ensure that they have a handle on the fight when it goes to the Constitution.
Yep.
Secondly, they have made 3/4 of the shameful executives of the failed SOEs. They have made them members of parliament. So what are they doing? They have put into the MK fold a judge and people that ran our state enterprises. So they are covering them there. They have brought in Floyd Shivambu, not because they like him, but because they knew the influence that Floyd Shivambu had in the EFF. He was the brain there, and Julius was the pinky. So they brought him in. Then they brought some revolutionaries that have got absolutely no IQ, so that they can have the revolutionary banter. So I'm telling you, the people are not seeing what I am seeing. They are not dumb. They want you to think they're dumb. They're not dumb. They are doing things strategically. They'll settle, and then they will launch their first national attack in 2026 to get as many municipalities under their wing.
Well, that's already that's already underway, Neil. That's one of the things they're doing now that's actually very clever. They are bribing or coercing or twisting and convincing people who are ANC councillors in municipalities to resign and leave office. And then when they have the by-election, that person stands as the MK candidate to go right back into government. It's working. Not all the time, but it's half the time it's working. It's clever.
Can you imagine every day as the ANC? You've got them in the Tuli House. You've got them in the police. You've got them in the military. MK is everywhere. Because in the transitional period, you will remember when it was still going okay, we had what they called integration of forces. So all MK, all people within liberation movements like me, we had to be integrated, Chris.
Yeah, the PAC,
into the police,
the Bantustans,
into the military, into intelligence. It was a demand. So suddenly you had generals, you had brigadiers, you had majors and colonels that came from MK that now had a constitutional appointment. Mm-hmm. So when Zuma did what he did as being an intelligence leader within MK, he was. So a lot of people say, but he's academically not clever. You are making a mistake. That man is a top strategist. I know him, Chris.
Yeah, no, I don't.
So
I don't. I don't say he's an idiot.
No, he's not. No, he's not. If we don't get this GNU right, which I pray to God we do, and if we don't settle, I wrote an article today, one of the news agencies picked it up and printed it. It says the inconvenient truth. We cannot come home every day as the GNU and be told by a guy like Fikile Mbalula that when you come home, number one, I don't like you. You will do this and this and that. And if you don't like it, I've got another wife or a husband in line. That's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So I said it today, Chris. You cannot continue threatening people. Now, you and I know, when we were in the military armed forces, we were told, if you've got a gun and you pull it, shoot. Don't threaten a guy with a gun. If you're not going to pull the trigger, don't dislodge your gun.
Yep.
So we're having that currently in the GNU. Every time there's a difference, every time there's going to be a political fight, the BELA bill, NHI, the DA or anybody is going to get up and say, we're leaving. They're not going to leave, Chris.
No, they're not. That's what I said. The DA's not. It's going to take something huge for that to happen. But nonetheless, this government is in jeopardy because the ANC is not solidified. They're fighting factions inside, and that's why the compromise is like keeping Paul Mashatili's there. That's why Panyaza Lessufi can act the fool and do what he wants and ignore the party. That would never have been tolerated in the ANC in the past.
Look what Lessufi is doing today. He has taken Joburg Metro. He's taken it. He is now gunning for Tshwane.
Wow,
they're going to relieve one of, I'm telling you,
the best mayors in all of South Africa.
One of the best mayors.
Yep.
There are two. Did you hear me? I'll say it. There are two mayors in this country that I know, that I've met, and they are not in my political party. But I'll tell it you today. Jordan Hill Lewis.
Yep, Cape Town.
And Selina Brink.
Yep.
Are truly dynamic leaders in this country. And you want to depose them because of power. This is a Lessufi move. This is a Lessufi move.
Yep.
Because if he can control Ekurhuleni, Joburg Metro, and Tshwane, he owns Gauteng. And if he owns Gauteng and he goes to the 2027 conference with KZN as a strength because of support there from the ultra forces into ANC, if he takes KZN, if he brings Gauteng to the party, and if he solidifies the attack in the Eastern Cape,
that's over.
If that man brings those three,
yeah, he's got it. No, I got you. It's 100% going that way. Hey, folks, if I can appeal, there's 300 people here currently right now. Some of you may not be subscribers. Hey, how about becoming a subscriber? Sorry to beg on this, but still trying to reach the level we're at before YouTube censored my original channel, which, by the way, came back after 2 years in the wilderness and still has over 20,000 subscribers, but YouTube hides my content there. But they don't hide it nearly as much on this channel. But if you can help us get back up there, we're approaching 19,000 again. So if you're watching the program, please become a subscriber. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit that button. What's that?
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. There you go. But we could do this for hours more. But I unfortunately today do have to run off and take care of something legal for the veterans organization here before the office closes. You know, bureaucrats, they're gone by 4, and it gives me about an hour and 15 minutes to take care of it. So Neil, this is Air France Air AF 67 on approach to Tower as we come in. Any final thoughts, Neil? I'll give you a chance to give any final thoughts here about anything we talked about, and then I'll let you drop off and I'll wrap up. Floor is yours.
3 things. Chris Wyatt, never stop commenting, loving our country. Never. We need that. Really. I know how much you love this country. Number 2, as long as South Africans understand that the true power, the real asset, is not our manganese, uranium, gold, or diamond. That the true asset of the Republic of South Africa are the people of the Republic of South Africa. And lastly, politics is dirty. And the politicians of this country, including me, are not the solution to this country's future. The solution to this country's future are the normal citizens of this country. My hope is that we can really put the past in the past. Not forget it, learn from it, but not live it. Any human that lives in the past has no place in the present and has no hope for the future. And that's my message today.
Well, Neil, spot on. I like the compliment you gave to me. Thank you very much. And I agree with all your points there. We don't forget the past. We live, we learn from it, and we become who we are from the past. And hopefully it makes us better people and we make a difference. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But we can't sit around and wallow in self-pity or victimization. We must pick ourselves up and move forward. Otherwise, you get nowhere. And right now, South Africa is going nowhere. 0.4% GDP growth. That country needs 6.5 to 8% annual GDP growth for 15 years just to catch up. And now it's behind Nigeria. That's embarrassing. This should be the powerhouse of Africa. Hopefully it will be again one day soon. So, all right, Neil, thank you very much. Bye-bye, Donkey. It's always a pleasure. We'll chat again hopefully soon. Lots coming up. Maybe we'll talk about the rugby because the Springboks have a few test matches, and then they have the November series. So we'll see how that goes.
In military terminology, until Valhalla.
Ooh, there you go. All right. Thanks a lot, Neil. I'll let you drop off. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
God bless.
All right, folks, that was Neil de Beer, leader of the United Independent Movement. He's able to get off the screen there. There he goes. United Independent Movement and a member of the Cape Town City Council. And so he can attest personally to Jordan Hill Lewis's performance as mayor there. And, a guy who has, I don't want to say checkered past, but he has a past that's controversial with many people on every side of the political spectrum. But it's always a pleasure to talk with him, and I do appreciate him coming on. It was a nice conversation about the government of national unity and what it really is. It's really just a grand coalition, and then the challenges facing it. We even delved into the BELA bill back and forth partway through, then came to it towards the end again. Briefly talked about what's going on here in America with the assassination attempts on Trump, and then finally also talked about the cancel culture in South Africa in the case of not canceling Joseph Malema, but canceling Roman Cabanak and Ronaldo Jose. And as he said, Ronaldo is no fan of his. I'm not aware of Ronaldo ever saying anything positive about him. But nonetheless, he doesn't have a beef with Ronaldo. He thinks he's being mistreated. So I think that's fair and well stated on his part. Anyway, folks, I do have to run. Unfortunately, it's been a lovely conversation. Boy, when Neil left, I lost 60 people. They just dropped right off. Obviously not here to see me. Anyway, thank you all. Apologies I couldn't get to everything in the chat in this conversation. We brought a little bit of it in, but thank you so much for it. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done. We're close to 200 likes. I'd really appreciate that. And if you're not a subscriber, please become one, as I said, because it helps grow the channel. The more subscribers, the more interaction. Hopefully, the more YouTube promotes it when we talk about these things. And quite frankly, I don't care where you're from. It's always productive and helpful to have an outside view of your country from someone outside your country. I faithfully read The Economist for decades. I had a subscription for over 30 years until they went so far woke I couldn't read them anymore. They betrayed their roots. But they were an objective news organization for well over a century. But the 30 years I read them, they had the American Survey in there. And it was an external view of politics and economics in America from British intellectuals. I always like to read it. I didn't agree with it all the time. And I certainly didn't agree with many things in The Economist, but it was fair, objective reporting, and that's why I read it. So it's good to hear from people outside your bubble about their views on what's going on, rather than being little asinine little trolls going, who the F do you think you are reporting in South Africa? Well, I think that I'm an Africanist, and I know more about South Africa than you do as a South African, so sit down in the corner. Anyway, all right, folks, got to go. Appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. God bless. Have a good evening. That's going to wrap it up for me today online. You will be able to find me tonight online on the other channel at Real Chris Wyatt, at Real Chris Wyatt. We're now broadcasting the Wednesday radio program over the internet, so you can see us on camera, and we can see your chat if you've got it. We bring it into our conversations. Tonight we'll talk about Trump and other things. That's a radio show out of Nashua, New Hampshire on WSMN. It's on the radio there, but you can find it on the internet. Look for WSMN, or you can just go to YouTube and listen in. For South Africans, it kind of sucks for you because it's 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. But if you happen to be up at those hours, you can catch it. If you're in Australia, New Zealand, it's at a better hour for you. And those here in the U.S., it's a decent hour, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Common Sense Conservatives. Thank you all so much, and we'll catch you later. Thanks for the chat, says Charles. Neil will never ask for forgiveness or make right, says Jan. I don't know if he's asked for forgiveness. You'd have to ask him that. Appreciate your comments, Jan, and I understand your point of view. All right, but let's not pile on our guest. It doesn't help. So, all right, folks, y'all take care. Be safe out there, and we'll catch you here next time. Cheers.